Welcome to the Big Blue Breakdown as we go through the game balls and gassers for the New York Giants in their 30-7 loss at MetLife Stadium. It was the Giants' sixth consecutive defeat and dropped them to 2-9 on the season. Now, this game in so many ways was the worst game of the Giants' year. They've been competitive most weeks, not so much in this one. Now, most coaches will tell you, if you don't win the turnover battle, it's going to be a problem. Well, we mentioned the Giants are 2-9 this year. This is the 11th game in a row where they have not won the turnover battle. It was actually 1-1 against Tampa. But I digress. That just happens to be an old mantra in football that I thought I would get out of the way early. When you look at what happened in this game, how difficult was it for the Giants to deal with? Well, their 23-point loss is their second largest defeat of the season. They allowed 156 rushing yards to Tampa Bay. That's the fifth time this year they've given up at least 150 yards on the ground. And wait, it does get worse. The defense allowed 4 categories of season highs: 30 points, 450 total yards, 294 passing yards, and 24 first downs. In every way, shape, and form, you could consider this the Giants' worst performance of the season. And they did have 2 other really rough ones against Minnesota opening day, and then just a few weeks ago at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. All 3 of those games were home games, which doesn't make it any easier, of course. The Vikings, the Eagles, and the Buccaneers. The Giants' 3 worst games of the season, really, when you get down to it, where they were not competitive, and they all happen to be home games. So, to be honest, we're going to go a little quicker through the game balls and gassers this week, simply because there's not really a whole lot to dissect. There's a lot of poor play and very little good play to write home about. So, here's what we're going to do. Remember, it's a short week, as the Giants now have to get ready for Thursday's game on Thanksgiving in Dallas against the Cowboys, who just came off of an upset against the Washington Commanders. All right, let's go through the game balls, and we'll start on offense. And you know what? We really don't have a hard time finding a game ball in this one, because I'm going to throw one out to quarterback Tommy DeVito. DeVito was 3 of 5 in the first half when the Giants didn't get anything going at all. He only had 8 dropbacks. In fact, at that point in the game, I believe the passing yardage for DeVito was only 31 yards. He had been sacked 3 times and only got the ball out 5. I mean, there wasn't much he could do. And remember, this game started out really poorly in that the Buccaneers took the opening kickoff and went 70 yards on 14 plays and a drive that consumed 8.5 minutes. They converted a 3rd and 3, a 3rd and 2, and a 4th and 1 before Tucker ran it in for a 1-yard touchdown and a 7-0 lead. Giants get the ball on their first possession, and Tracy went for 16 yards on the first snap. Wow, you're thinking, all right, so the Giants are ready to answer. But then it's a quick 3 and out that includes a 3rd down sack. And from that point forward, it became an ugly game. We will talk more about the real turning point, if you will, the switch that got broken in just a minute. But let's go back to our offensive game ball to Tommy DeVito. We talked about how rough things were in the first half, but in the second half, and yes, I understand, the Buccaneers were playing a much more conservative defense at that point. But they did blitz DeVito throughout the course of the day. And in the second half, he was 18 of 26, very respectable, for 115 yards. 158 yards. Had drives of 65, 68, and 56 during a 5-drive stretch. So I look at that and I say, all right, there was some production there. And then I also look at how DeVito had the wind knocked out of him and actually had to come out of the game when he was hit by Cansey, the defensive lineman, late in the fourth quarter. The game, for all practical purposes, was over. The Giants were in a very, very deep pit of quicksand. DeVito gets the wind knocked out of him. They bring him out. Drew Lock comes in, completes one quick short pass. And wouldn't you know it, Tommy DeVito, Jersey tough, wanted to show some fight, wanted to show some gusto, refused to stay knocked out of the game, got right back in there in the huddle with his teammates, and then also participated on every snap during the final drive when the Giants got the ball back one more time. So Tommy DeVito, for his first start of the season, he got beaten up pretty bad. In fact, I believe he wound up taking 4 sacks on the day and 9 quarterback hits. But in spite of that, he kept plugging away and kept getting back up. And so I'm going to give Tommy DeVito the offensive game ball. The defensive game ball, well, it's really hard to find anybody who deserves a defensive game ball after all that we just told you. But there's one thing that's worth noting. And for that, I am going to give one out. Rookie safety Tyler Nubin was in on 12 tackles and a pass defensed. Now, those are nice numbers, but of course, it came in a horrible defensive effort overall. But this is the second week in a row that he's been involved in double-digit tackles, and the 7th time in 11 games with the Giants this year that he either led or tied for the team lead in tackles. So, on a team that's had a lot of trouble tackling guys, with missed tackles left and right, and yes, Nubin's been guilty of some of those as well. The fact that he was in on 12 tackles and has led the team more than half of the season in making tackles, I'm going to go with a game ball for Tyler Nubin. I'm not enthusiastic about it, but there was some level of production there. And so that's where I'm going to go. On special teams, Amir Smith-Marset had a kickoff return. I believe it was in the fourth quarter for 33 yards. Got to give him credit for that. You know, in a situation where hardly anything was going right for the Giants, a 33-yard kickoff return on any given Sunday is a good kickoff return. But certainly in a situation here, fourth quarter, Giants are way down and out of the game, and he's able to find some room and put up a 33-yard kick return. So Smith-Marset gets the special teams game ball. Now, we're going to go to the gassers. On offense, as much as it pains me to do this, I've got to go to Tyrone Tracy. Now, the rookie running back, has run for over 600 yards this season. Yesterday, 9 carries for 42 with a long of 16. So an average of 4.7 yards per attempt. Caught 4 passes for 28. Modest numbers, for sure. After all, nothing went great offensively for the Giants in this game. But here's the problem. For the second time in a row, and of course, remember, this goes back to before the bye week when the Giants were in Munich and lost to the Carolina Panthers. Tyrone Tracy has had a fumble in the offensive zone. Well, that's more of a hockey term. You know what I mean. Deep in the other team's territory. In this particular case, Levante David stripped it out, and Cansey came up with the recovery, as it looked like the Giants were going in for a score. Now, I'm not going to go crazy over this, if only because the Giants were not in a good way, and I don't believe that even had they scored a touchdown there, it would have made a whole lot of difference. Actually, let me correct. This is in the third quarter, not in the fourth. The Giants at that point were down 23-0. It was at the 5-yard line on a first down, and as he runs behind left tackle, out of the Wildcat, he had the ball in the wrong hand, and it came out. So, okay. The Giants score a touchdown. If they kick the extra point, it's 23-7. The Bucs, on their next drive, they took that fumble and turned it into a 95-yard, 12-play touchdown drive. Rashad White taking it in from the 1. And that made the score 30-0 in favor of the Buccaneers with less than 4 minutes left in the third quarter. So I don't want to say that that fumble cost the Giants an opportunity to win the game. I don't want to do that. But nonetheless, 2 games in a row with a fumble deep in opponent's territory, that's not good. We know that cannot happen. On the next series, Singletary was in there for the Giants while Tracy got to think about it. But then again, after that, Tracy was back in the game. So Brian Dable's trying to keep his spirits up, but you don't want to have that. That's not good. All right. On defense, I gotta give the gasser to everybody. I mean, even Newbin probably should run gassers here too. Tampa Bay had 6 plays of 26 or more yards in this game, including 4 of 30 or more yards. Giants have been talking about this all season. They keep giving up too many big plays. After 3 quarters, the score was 30-0 Buccaneers. They had scored on 5 of their 6 possessions to that point. 4 touchdowns and a field goal. As I said, this really was the worst Giants performance, I think, of the season. Certainly defensively, without question. And then we go to the special teams gasser. And special teams really didn't have much to do. So I'm actually going to not hand out a special teams gasser in this one. And why? Well, let's make it simple. There was no issue with the kickoff coverage. There was no issue with the kickoff returns. Ditto for the punt coverage and the punt returns. Jamie Gillen, the punter, did fine. Graham Gano, the place kicker, did fine. Couldn't find anything bad necessarily on special teams that deserved a gasser. So we're not going to give a gasser out for the Giants special teams in this one. And it's the only unit, really, that gets spared. Yeah, that's really all there is to say. So the Big Blue Breakdown we're going to have a live version this week, tonight, on Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time to take your video calls, your audio calls, and your chats. Now, we usually have our live program on Wednesday nights, but because it's a short week and the Giants will be traveling to Dallas for the Thanksgiving game, and as you folks know, I'm all part of the Giants broadcast team, it's going to be rather difficult logistically to be able to pull off the show on Wednesday night. So because of the holiday, and you folks obviously got a lot of shopping to do, got to get to the supermarket, got to get to the deli, got to make sure you got all your table goods together for a wonderful Thanksgiving feast, we're going to move the Big Blue Breakdown live version to tonight. So 7:30 tonight, Eastern Time, on the YouTube channel of the New York Giants on SI Media Network. We'll be back with the Big Blue Breakdown live. We hope to see you then. Until tonight, I'm Paul Dottino. So long.